Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draws are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. This gear's been field tested by some of the best, and they know what it can do, what it can't do. You're going to get reviews, and you're going to have a selection that is bar none right at the top of the list. Having said that, once you get your gift card, all you have to do is go to GoHunt.com and go to the first page and click on shop and go have some fun. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and I'm staying here in Colorado, but I'm meeting up with a fellow Wisconsinite, Bill Vanderheyden. Now, Bill is the owner of Iron Will Broadheads. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me on.
We had a great warm-up, folks, and I got a lot of background because Bill's brought out a tool for you to use that's exceptional. And sure, there's a lot of broadheads out there. Sure, they all do their job. But Bill, with his background in engineering, has come up with a tool that's going to help you no matter where you go in the world. So, Bill, welcome to the show, and let's jump right into your broadheads.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, I spent several years really engineering, trying to make this broadhead the best I could. I was really going after, max penetration on big animals like elk when I got started. And, I had a bad experience where I hit an elk, shot a little too far forward, hit the shoulder blade, and had a broadhead fail. And really decided to use my mechanical engineering background, product development background to try and engineer a better broadhead because I wanted a broadhead that's going to be able to go through that shoulder blade and stay sharp, not bend or break. And so I've spent a lot of years working on the geometry and the design, along with the materials used to try and make the best broadhead I can.
Now, folks, I know a lot of you are whitetail hunters, but a lot of us head out west, and we might go to Alaska, we might go other places and hunt moose or elk, which are huge animals. They weigh hundreds of pounds, and their bones are relatively large. Now, let's talk about the application of Iron Will on that animal.
Sure, we've got a lot of guys using them this year on elk and big moose in Yukon as well. And the performance has been excellent. We've had a number of guys have shots through the shoulder blade and get complete pass-throughs on elk, quartering on shots, pass through the shoulder blade. So that's really the difference between this broadhead and the ones you're typically going to buy is, our blade is A2 tool steel, 62 thousandths thick. With A2, we can get very high hardness, 60 Rockwell C. So extremely sharp. You can get extremely sharp edge with that, and it retains that edge really well. So, through ribs or shoulder blade or whatever, it's still going to stay sharp and penetrate through. And A2 also has excellent impact strength. So not only is it hard, most blades, stainless steel blades, when they're that hard, they're going to be brittle. But in the case of A2, it's got a very high impact strength as well, about 3 times the typical blade steels. So yeah, the performance through the bone has been great.
Now, in the past, I always used 125s, and I shot Rocky Mountain Supremes when I first started out hunting, and my total weight of my arrow and broadhead was like 450 grains, and we were talking more about kinetic energy and the importance of it. So, how does that kinetic energy relate to your broadheads?
Yeah, the kinetic energy really, I think for the bigger animals, what you want is, 450 grains is a pretty good weight. I would recommend not going, below 400. And I think that 450 is a pretty good point. And there's a lot of guys shooting 500 or higher as well. And a little heavier total arrow weight will give you better retained momentum. So, and your bow is going to be a little more efficient as well. So when you take that shot, immediately when the arrow leaves the bow, it's going to have a little more kinetic energy than it would with a lighter arrow because of the efficiency of your bow. But then also that faster arrow is going to have more drag. So drag is proportional to velocity squared. So you end up with more drag. So if you're shooting that 40-yard, 50-yard shot, that arrow is going to slow down more, whereas the heavier arrow is going to have more retained momentum. And so you're going to have better penetration when you hit that animal out there ways.
So I'm hunting whitetails and, my 80 in Wisconsin. Why do I need, a bone breaker arrow or broadhead?
It gives you more margin. There's as a design engineer, whenever you develop the product in the past, you before that product comes to market, you think of, okay, what are all the potential failure modes, and am I going to have those issues here? And I've really tried to design this broadhead so there's going to be zero failure modes on an animal, and especially a whitetail. If let's say that animal turns or spins, and now you're hitting through the shoulder, or lower down, not just the shoulder blade, but the thicker part of the leg. Maybe the heart's right behind there, but you got to get through that to make the shot. And so that's a situation where this broadhead would shine where others wouldn't. And a lot of guys, I've got buddies of mine back in Wisconsin that do quality deer management, and they've been targeting 5.5, 6.5-year-old bucks, and they were using mechanicals for years, and they found with those bigger, older bucks, their bones are bigger. They're having issues just on ribs in some cases. So you're targeting those older animals. That's when a very strong blade and very strong ferrule as well. Our ferrule material is a grade 5 titanium, which has excellent strength to weight ratio. And since it's lighter than steel, you can have more material to it. So you can have very thick wall sections and a very strong material. So not only is that blade going to pound through the bone, okay, but the ferrule is going to hold it and not bend, and make sure that energy is going through the animal. And at whitetails, I go back and hunt whitetails. I hunted Wisconsin and Indiana this year. And is it needed? Well, no. If your shot placement is perfect, there's a lot of broadheads will do the job. But when something happens, it just gives you more margin that it's not gonna fail.
When you think of other broadheads in the marketplace, and as we talked, $30, $40 for three is kind of the sweet spot for any number of broadheads, but yours at $100 is like gulp. How do I justify spending $70 more on the same three blades? They're not the same three blades, but in your pocket
right.
They are. On the arrows they are.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and really, I designed this broadhead to be ultimate performance, really for myself initially, and my friends and family. We were all shooting it. We shot about 50 animals before I decided to bring it to market, and actually selling it. If you look at manufacturing cost versus selling price, you're probably getting twice the value with this broadhead than you are most. Most everybody out there is using very cheap blade steel, 420 J2, pretty low end blade steel. So with that steel, a lot of times they're not that sharp to start with, but by the time you go through hide and a rib, there's really not much of an edge left. And so you're not slicing all the way through that animal at that point. You're kind of pushing the tissue aside as you're going through. And whereas this with the sharper edges, slicing all the way through, it's, quicker kills and better bleeding. But you pay for that. This A2 tool steel, it costs more to process this. And we do, we set up and do 36 grinding passes on this to hit all the edges and do 3 passes per edge to get extremely sharp edges. I go through a heat treat process where I do a cryogenic treatment. So that's at very low temperature to get the microstructure to all be very uniform and very strong and not have any weak spots. And then we go through a triple tempering process. So three draws to the temper, which takes a lot longer, but it gives you that excellent impact strength. So that's why the blades cost more. And then the titanium ferrule is, costs 5 times as much to make a titanium ferrule as it does an aluminum ferrule, which most 100 grain heads are, going to be 70-75 or 60-61 aluminum. Titanium is just much stronger, 2 to 3 times stronger, but it also costs a lot more. But I've seen with aluminum, if there's heavy bone impact, a lot of times you're going to bend that ferrule, and you don't do that on titanium. Then our heavier weights, we use a hardened stainless steel, and we harden it and then machine it in the hardened condition. So we hold very tight tolerances. We're typically at about a 10,000th of an inch concentricity. So they spin very true and are very repeatable. But all that engineering that's gone into it, trying to make the best broadhead, it makes them cost more. And that's really the difference of why I'm selling it for 2.5 times as much as the typical broadhead. It's because they cost about 5 times as much to make. And, I think you pay for performance here. And no, you don't need it for any animal, but a lot of guys are going on that elk hunt or that moose hunt or mountain goat, sheep. They've got a lot riding on that shot, and they want to make sure the broadhead's going to do the job. But, I think me personally, I feel like every animal I shoot, I've got a lot riding on the shot, and I've had that broadhead fail, and I know how that can turn a trip into a nightmare. And having that success instead of the failure is certainly worth $30 from the broadhead to me. And I'm loving the stories I'm getting this year of people saying, "Hey, I got this animal. It moved on me. I had to go through the one guy shot a moose right through the heavy part of the shoulder bone, and then went through the heart. And he says another broadhead would have failed. And it's just a huge Yukon moose. And I'm loving all the success stories that are coming in and being able to help people succeed."
Folks, one reason I wanted Bill on the show is simply think about what we get invested in our hunt. And I don't care if you're going to the back 40. If you're going to the back 40, you get your ATV. Well, you use that all the time. Fine. You got 3 or 4 sets. Okay, fine. Then you got the cross boots or whoever you'd like to wear for rubber boots. Then you've got trees and camo or Sitka or whomever. Great gear. And then you got your bow, and it might be a Matthews or a Bowtech, or like me, I shoot an Excalibur or crossbow. They all cost a couple bucks. So before we even leave the truck to get into our ATV to drive to the thing, we have thousands and thousands of dollars. And guess what happens in that moment of truth? There's one thing that can either is going to fail you or it's going to back you up, and that's your broadhead. You can have Common Express. You can have the best setup. You can be drilling it from 60 yards. You just don't miss. But if something happens that the animal, not you, the animal just take that step. He throws his shoulder open. He closes his shoulder. He moves his butt around. Anything like that, all of a sudden your double long isn't a double long anymore. And that's why I want Bill to come on to express why the value of his product, because we owe it to that critter. We owe it to that deer, that moose, buffalo. Doesn't matter what you're shooting. We owe it to them to finish the job that we started and do it as ethically as possible. Bill, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think at the moment of truth there, when that animal walks out and you're taking that shot, what really matters at that point, and it's the broadhead really matters probably the most at that point. ensure your bow and arrows as well. But yeah, a lot of that other gear that that you buy, it's not really going to matter at that point. It's the broadhead, and is it going to make it through? And I totally agree with making an ethical shot. In fact, I was talking to a guy last night, and he had come to realize how much sharpness matters. And I just realized that over the last 4 or 5 years as well, as we tried to refine that sharpening process and get it better and better and get those edges extremely sharp. And I'm seeing a huge difference now. And when we shoot an animal, I'd say the last dozen animals I've taken with it, the arrow zips through and they barely know it happened. They know something happened. They'll run 20 or 40 yards and stop and look around and then drop dead. And that's what I want. I want it to be a very quick kill, humane, slice through, get it done. I don't want that. I don't want to have it, go halfway through and hit, take out on an elk. This happens a lot. People will not penetrate enough and just hit one lung. Well, that elk's going to go a long ways on one lung. You're probably not going to find him, not that day, anyways. And yeah, I don't want that to happen. I've experienced that on a big bull once, and that was enough to me to know that I'm going to do everything I can to engineer a broadhead, so that doesn't happen to me anymore, or my friends or family. And now I'm glad I get to kind of extend that and help a lot of other people with it too.
Yeah, thanks for that, because we all have choices. You mentioned that you met up with Bill Pellegrino at the ATA. You just walk the halls there and you go, oh my goodness, we're part of a huge industry that's all, buying for our dollar, but buying to give us the best equipment we can have when we go in the field. And, whitetail hunters, we're 17 million strong, and represent 30-some billion dollars of annual revenues, for that industry. So you look at that and you go, oh my goodness, we're a force to be reckoned with in the retail side, and people know that, and where I'm going with this is that listeners, make sure whoever you're buying your stuff from comes through. If you have a problem with their broadhead, let them know. Anything that you get, just let them know. And because then they'll get better.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing we do too is we give a lifetime guarantee, and people aren't used to shooting a broadhead more than once, but this one you really can. We just had a guy hunting down in Alabama. He shot 4 whitetails with the same broadhead. They can shoot one a day down there, I think, and he was helping reduce the doe population for a rancher down there. But he said it was still shaving hair after 3. And then after the 4th one, he hit a rock and decided not to quit using it. But he said it still spun through, and it just had a little bit of a ding in the edge at that point. So, most people aren't used to that, and they're also used to broadheads failing or blades breaking, and they just kind of accept it as is. And I think we should expect a higher standard there. I really do. And you mentioned the ATA show, and this was my first time there, and I didn't expect to have anybody really know about us. But I was amazed at how many people had heard about us already, and really the acceptance there. Everybody was really, I talked to was excited about a high-end premium broadhead coming out. In fact, Pearson's Bowhunter did an article on the Archer's Dozen, the 12 best products at the ATA show, and they listed our broadhead as one of those products. I think you're going to see it coming out. There's a few different gear reviews coming out, some of the big bow hunting magazines as well. And I believe you're going to see our broadhead in those also.
People who hunt, again, they're 80 or they get on an airplane and go someplace else, they're passionate about, doing the best job they can, for the critters. And I've already addressed this about ethical hunting. But, when you think about that, they're going, okay, how can I do my job better? And, Bill Pellegrino is one of those guys. Okay, how can I take care of my customers better? And when you think of that, that's why I'm excited about your product and, want to see where it goes, because, I think it's the right product for the right time, and the money's there. There's no question about it. They just have to say, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I spending, 2.5 times the money? And not everybody will. And there's plenty of room for everybody. Don't get me wrong. And if you want to sit, go ahead.
I agree. This isn't. I agree. This isn't going to be for everybody. It's. I talked to a ton of pro shop dealers at the show, and a lot of them said, we got a lot of guys in here. They'll buy a new $1,000 bow every year, but they don't want to pay more than $10 for a broadhead. And it's just kind of what people are used to and where they think the value is, I guess. So, but I've also heard almost everybody has a broadhead failure story to tell you about. So, I don't think there was a lot of choices out there either. I think, even though there must have been a dozen broadhead companies or more at the show, as I walked through and looked at everything coming out, when people are selling a broadhead for 10 or $13, they're only putting about $3 into the manufacturing. So all the materials of manufacturing, a big company like that will typically target maybe 30% of the selling prices at most going to be used for materials manufacturing. So $3, you don't have much choice. They're using the cheapest materials they can to get that built for that. And that might not be everybody, but it's a great majority of them. And they're coming out with different designs and unique things here and there, but they're still using very low cost materials, manufacturing processes, because they have to. Because that's been, that's what the consumer has kind of demanded, is that, hey, I want a broadhead for $10 or $13. So that's what they've had to do. But I'm hoping people will put more value than that in the broadheads going forward.
Hey, guys and gals, if you get any questions, whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com, and I'll certainly get them, on to Bill. And do you have a pro staff? Are you developing pro staff, Bill?
We do. We have half a dozen people in the pro staff so far. If people want to join that, they can. We have a contact us form on our website. Just put your information in there, or just request it, and we'll get you an application for that. And our website is ironwilloutfitters.com. And you can see our products there, and use the contact us form if you have any questions for us as well. Also, our phone number's on there, 970-776-5022.
Thanks for that. And Bill and I were talking about Iron Will Outfitters or Iron Will Broadheads, and there was a little confusion. I didn't know how he wanted me to introduce them. And so, Bill, why don't you cover that real quick?
Sure. Yeah, our company name is Iron Will Outfitters. Our product line, really the only product we're making at this point, is broadheads, and that's the Iron Will broadheads. So we're using the Iron Will broadheads name more because we've had a little confusion with people thinking we're an elk guide, an outfitter, as in like a guide service for hunting. And we're thinking of outfitters more like we're going to outfit you with the gear that you need. So that's why the website is ironwilloutfitters.com. But if you go to ironwillbroadheads.com, it'll route you to the same site. So that's the difference there.
Okay, thanks. Hey, did you hunt last fall?
I did hunt last fall. Yeah, I had I love Colorado because I was able to hunt antelope, bear, elk, and mule deer. And I got and bear here is it's all spot and stock. There's no baiting. So I got a bear, spot and stock, and I got an antelope, a real nice I guess it was Pope and Young buck there, and I did get a mule deer as well. I did not get my elk this year. Then I went back and I hunted Wisconsin and Indiana, and I got a buck in Indiana. So I think four animals or so. So it was a good year. My freezer is full.
Now, with you had to draw a deer tag. How many points did you have to burn?
I didn't burn any in the unit I go. It's a leftover tag. So
okay.
Yep.
So that works out good, folks. All deer in Colorado are by limited draw. There are some leftover tags. There are some special whitetail areas, but for the most part, if you're thinking of that big 180 mule deer, typically all of them are you have to draw for them.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say it was a leftover. I guess it was a second choice tag.
There you go.
Where I drew a point, I got a preference point, and then with my second choice, I drew a tag in an area where you can draw with the second choice. Yep.
So let's talk about and finish up the show here. Got a couple more minutes about the hunting tradition and why Bill's involved, in the outdoor industry. But you love the hunt so much.
Yeah, I've always loved to hunt. My grandfather hunted. My father, they're both bow hunters. And I've got a brother. In fact, my brother Tim was with me on that elk hunt years ago where I hit that shoulder and the broadhead failed, and he helped me look for that elk for about 5 days there. And so it was really working with him where I decided I'm going to try and engineer a better broadhead, and and we kind of worked together on that. He did a lot of testing. He's that guy's probably killed 100 whitetails. He is just he's a killing machine. And you get a bow and an animal comes near him, and he's just an incredible hunter. But he gave me a lot of feedback throughout the years on the design of the broadhead, and there were several iterations to it, and we'd both hunt with it, and eventually we got it where we wanted to go. But at this point, I go back now and I hunt with my four brothers. We all bow hunt together, and we have a good time. So it's kind of a family deal. But I just love the industry as well. All the guys I was meeting, met Cameron Haynes and Adam Greentree and Kurt Wells, meeting a lot of guys at the show that are in the industry, and they're all great guys. So I'm really enjoying being a part of that.
Yeah, it is. It's a large industry, but it's really a small family, if you will. Now, there's some people would argue with me that things happen in business. I get that, but collectively, everybody's very supportive of everybody else, and that's a nice place to be.
It is, and everybody I've talked to has been really really helpful. So a lot of great, like you said, it seems like kind of a small family. Everybody's pretty friendly and helping each other out.
So when somebody comes to you and says, "I'm going for a Yukon moose," how do you set them up?
It's really kind of up to them on what they want to use for weight. An arrow weight, broadhead weight. Because we had our biggest Yukon moose was shot with 100 grain head. And that guy likes to use a 400 grain total arrow weight. And on that elk he shot, it was I think 55 yards. There's a testimonial on our website on it, and he misjudged ours a little bit, hit a little bit high, and he put it through the shoulder blade, near side, and buried it in the far side shoulder blade. And he said the broadhead was in good shape, but it was buried so deep into the bone he couldn't pull it out, and it dropped that elk. So that was with the 400 grain arrow at 50 yards away. But we also had we've had two guys use 125 grains and shoot big Yukon moose, and one of those guys was shooting a 60-pound bow. His total arrow weight, I forget, but it wasn't very heavy either. And he got a complete pass through. In fact, twice. The elk didn't even know he shot it. He shot it again, and it zipped right through. And one of his shots went through the elk, and it split about a 2-inch sapling 10 yards on the other side of the elk. So, we've been seeing great penetration. And he's not a big guy. He's shooting 60-pound bow is all. And I think he said 27.5-inch draw. So not a lot of energy there to be getting that kind of pass through on a massive, 3-foot wide, probably Yukon moose. So, I think our broadheads work well at any weight you want to shoot them at, it looks like.
One thing we need to touch on traditional archers. How are they embracing your broadhead?
Pretty well. Mostly it's been compound guys that are buying them. We've had a lot of, that's been a great majority, but we have a few guys that were shooting stick bows and had good success last year. You got a lot more guys on getting them now, picking them up, and I'm trying to learn more about it myself. I'm talking to some people that are very experienced. In fact, I'm going to be meeting with one of them tomorrow to just learn more about the trad hunters and what they look for. But I think it'll work well for them. Being that cut on contact, extremely sharp, great penetration, I think is what the trad guys need, because they don't typically have as much energy with their bows, and that arrow is fishtailing more and using up more of that energy. So I think any added penetration they can get is a good thing. Yeah,
that'll be interesting to see, because with traditional archery, they need all the help they can get because of the dimensions. Now, people at 10 yards and 20 yards, there's people that can shoot way better than I ever shot. But when you're just starting to break in and everything, all the help you can get on the front end will help you, get more game.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, some traditional archers are excellent shots, but I know a lot that are just getting into it and they're not shooting those tight groups like the compound guys do. So any margin for getting through that shoulder blade or whatever they might hit is a good thing.
Well, Bill, on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, this has really been a fun show. I was looking forward to it because you're bringing out a product that is setting the bar pretty darn high. But the process that you went through to bring it to market and the results are supporting it very well.
Yeah, it's not going to be for everybody, but there's been a great acceptance. A lot of people been trying them, talking about them on the forums, doing YouTube, just independent guys buying them and doing reviews. So, check out the, search on Iron Will Broadheads on YouTube or in the forums, and you'll see the reviews guys are doing, shooting them into cinder blocks and things like that, doing 100 yard, popping balloons at 100 yards, shoot really well at long range. So yeah, check it out. Acceptance has been excellent this year.
On the next episode, we're heading to the Midwest, Fort Wayne, Indiana, to be true. And we're going to meet with John, Uncle Bucky, Outdoor Adventures, Heingarten. That's a mouthful. But and John does have a mouthful because he loves to talk and chit-chat, and he's a humorous guy, and he's got great stories. One of the best stories, I think, is that in 2004, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. He was running a company, construction company, and his life changed. Let's leave it at that. But his love for hunting didn't. And today he's actually getting ready to head to Canada to run a wolf and bear camp and catch some walleyes. All in all, John is a man that just flat gets it done. Gets up in the morning, puts a smile on his face, and sees what the day has for him. And he's got a great relationship with God, and that's very important to him. And as you hear his stories, on the next episode, you're going to realize that he's a very special man. And I'm happy to call him my friend.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.